Hi everyone, Professor Philip Travis here, Eastern Oregon University, History of Modern Germany, week 4. This week, and I'm going to make this part of the announcement a little short because I want you to watch the video below for your extra credit factoid this week. This week we are reading from Kitchen, our Modern Germany book, chapter 9 and 10, and we are examining the period of Kaiser Wilhelm II, I should say, Kaiser Wilhelm II to the First World War. So we're going to look at what happens in Germany after the demise of Otto von Bismarck, when he was effectively dismissed by Kaiser Wilhelm, and how that really sets up Germany for the situation that occurs in the First World War. This week, in terms of our assignments, again, reading chapter 9 and 10. There is a reading quiz on chapter 10 from Kitchen. There is also a documentary film, and it's part of our discussion forum. And the documentary film is on the First World War, and it's called The Necessary War. And I want to ask you to read or watch maybe the first 20 to 30 minutes. Though it's an excellent documentary, it's very well done, I think. But I want you to watch the first maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, and use that as you engage in the discussion forum. So another thing I want to mention, coming up in the coming weeks, of course, we have a couple of things. One thing, we have of course, in this class, due at the end of the term, you have a research paper. And due next week, it'll be next week, I want everyone to submit a preliminary thesis statement and a preliminary list of 5 sources. So select a topic for the research paper. You need to develop your own topic, of course, related to modern Germany, which could be any subject that we've covered in the course, from the era of Napoleon Bonaparte's influence on Germany all the way to the turn of the 21st century, as long as the paper is historical in nature. So be thinking about what you want to write about, and be thinking about a potential thesis statement. Thesis statements can change, they will change. Usually they change because we're doing our research, and the research insists that we must change this thesis statement. Your thesis statement is your overall point. It is what you hope the paper will demonstrate using evidence. And again, it doesn't have to, you can change it. But I want next week, I want everyone to have a preliminary thesis statement and a list of 5 academic sources that they're looking into using for that paper. In several weeks, this is down the line a little bit still, I think it's due week 8, we are also going to be looking at this book for a number of weeks. And I want you to, this is a collection of primary sources that we all have, and there's a paper on this, a primary source analysis paper, and what everyone will do, and I'll have a written prompt coming up on this in the near future, so you can refer to this. But what we're going to be doing with this book, it's a collection of primary source documents, and I will want everyone to use at least 10 primary source documents in writing a roughly 3.5-page analysis paper that uses those documents to make, again, a central historical argument about the Nazi state and German society. And you can select the periodization of these documents goes from the era of the Weimar Republic all the way to the last thing that Hitler wrote right before he committed suicide. So it goes through the Second World War. And so there's a lot of opportunities for approaches to that paper, but I want to see you using 10 sources in that analysis paper. So I'll have a formal written prompt on the analysis paper coming up in the near future. Again, it's due week 8, so you have some time on it. But we're going to start reading this from this document reader probably next week, actually. So we'll be reading it through it, parts of it. And a lot of the documents are not long, so when you hear 10 documents, I mean, some of the documents are 1 page. None of the documents are super long, and they're really fascinating to read. So we'll be reading a lot of it as we go through the discussion forum, but I do want everyone to keep in mind that there will be a 3 to 3.5 page analysis paper based on analysis of primary sources from this primary source reader that we're using in this class. All right, so the factoid this week. Watch the video below. That's the factoid. It's a factoid. It's a video that I created from Alsace, France. And of course, Alsace was, at the time we're reading about, it was part of Germany, the Franco-Prussian War. And after World War I, it is briefly independent and then back to France. And of course, today it's part of France. It's a very interesting place, a place of wine vineyards, small medieval-like towns, a curious sort of, intersection point, if you will, or borderland even, between France and Germany. And so it's a really fascinating place to understand, to look at. So I created this video from my travels in Alsace, France. It's like 10 minutes, but please watch it. And this is a long today, so I'll give you 2 points for it.